The observation deck of Stellar Haven Station glimmered with 1,000 stars, each one a distant promise of worlds yet to be explored. Elena Frost pressed her palm against the cool glass, watching as the massive Draconian warship emerged from the jump gate like a creature born from ancient myths. Its hull was the color of burnt copper, covered in scales that seemed more organic than metallic. She had spent 3 years studying alien biology, but nothing in her research had prepared her for this moment. Behind her, the diplomatic hall bustled with activity. Representatives from the Human Federation rushed about, making final preparations for first contact with the Draconian Empire. This meeting would determine whether humanity faced a new ally or a formidable enemy. The Draconians had controlled the Scorpio sector for over 2,000 years, their military prowess legendary across a dozen star systems. Elena turned from the window and smoothed down her white lab coat. As the station's lead xenobiologist, she had been asked to observe the proceedings and provide scientific insight. Her heart hammered with excitement and fear in equal measure. She took her position near the back of the hall, clutching her datapad like a lifeline. The doors hissed open with mechanical precision, and silence fell across the assembly. The Draconians entered in formation, their footsteps echoing like thunder against the polished floor. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Each warrior stood over 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in natural armor that shifted between crimson and gold in the changing light. Horns curved back from their skulls, and their eyes burned with an inner fire that spoke of ancient power. At the front of the delegation walked General Rovik, commander of the Draconian Third Fleet. His presence filled the room like gravity itself had intensified. Unlike his subordinates who wore battle armor, Rovik's scales were bare, displaying countless scars that told stories of 1,000 battles. His eyes swept across the assembled humans with an intelligence that made Elena's breath catch. This was no simple warrior. This was a leader who had shaped the destiny of worlds. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, his diplomatic smile firmly in place. General Rovik, on behalf of the Human Federation, we welcome you to Stellar Haven Station. We hope this meeting marks the beginning of a lasting friendship between our peoples. Rovik's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Ambassador Chen, we come not with empty words, but with a gift that represents the soul of our empire. For 3 millennia, the Draconian people have shared our lives with the sacred fire dragons. These magnificent creatures are more than companions. They are the living embodiment of our honor, our strength, and our commitment to those we call allies. He gestured to his warriors, who wheeled forward a containment unit that hummed with barely contained energy. Through its transparent walls, Elena could see something moving, something that made every instinct in her body scream both danger and wonder. The field generators flickered, revealing what lay inside. The dragon hatchling was beauty and terror woven into living form. No larger than a terrier dog, it possessed scales that gleamed like rubies dipped in starlight. Each scale was edged in gold, creating patterns that seemed to shift and change with every movement. Its eyes burned with crimson fire, and when it opened its mouth, Elena glimpsed teeth like crystallized flames. Small wings folded against its back, membranes so thin she could see the veins pulsing with liquid fire. Its tail coiled and uncoiled, tipped with spikes that glowed white-hot. "This is Ember," Rovik announced, pride evident in his voice. "Born under the red star of our homeworld, chosen by our priests as a symbol of new beginnings. Adult fire dragons grow to be 40 feet long, capable of melting starship armor with their breath and surviving in the vacuum of space. They bond with only one individual in their lifetime, and that bond is eternal. We offer Ember as proof of our sincere desire for alliance with humanity." Elena found herself moving forward without conscious thought, drawn by scientific curiosity and something deeper she could not name. She had studied countless alien species, but never had she encountered a creature that seemed to exist at the intersection of myth and reality. Ember turned its burning gaze toward her, and for a heartbeat, she felt as though the hatchling could see into her very soul. The other human representatives kept their distance, fear evident in their body language. Even Ambassador Chen took an involuntary step backward when Ember pressed against the containment field, its claws leaving scratches in the energy barrier. Only Elena seemed immune to the primal terror the creature inspired. "Among our people," Rovik continued, "the bonding ceremony is sacred. The chosen one must approach the dragon without fear, must offer their hand in trust. If the dragon accepts, the bond is formed, linking two souls across the barriers of species and language. It is not without risk. Many who attempt the bonding are rejected, sometimes fatally. Ambassador Chen cleared his throat nervously. General Rovik, we are honored by this gift, but perhaps we should discuss the practical considerations. Housing such a creature, providing proper care, ensuring the safety of our personnel. Before he could continue, the station's lighting flickered. A power surge ran through the systems, causing the containment field to waver for just a fraction of a second. It was enough. Ember moved with speed that defied its small size, claws tearing through the weakened barrier like paper. The hatchling burst from its prison in an explosion of crimson light and scattered energy. Chaos erupted instantly. Draconian warriors roared commands, drawing weapons that crackled with plasma energy. Human security forces flooded into the hall, their rifles trained on the small dragon as it darted between overturned chairs and panicking diplomats. Alarms shrieked through the station, and automated systems sealed bulkheads throughout the facility. All personnel evacuate immediately, the station AI announced in its calm, emotionless voice. Hostile creature detected. Initiating lockdown protocols. Ember scrambled across the floor, its claws leaving scorch marks on the metal deck. The hatchling was clearly terrified, surrounded by strange smells and sounds, trapped in an alien environment. It darted toward a ventilation grate, but Draconian warriors blocked its path. Cornered, the dragon reared back, its throat beginning to glow with building fire. "Do not harm it," Rovik bellowed, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "The hatchling is sacred. Anyone who injures Ember will answer to me personally." But the security forces were already closing in, their weapons powered and ready. Elena saw what was about to happen, saw the tragedy that would unfold if fear and instinct were allowed to prevail. Without thinking, without weighing the consequences, she threw herself forward. She hit the floor in front of Ember just as the first security officer opened fire. The plasma bolt sizzled past Elena's shoulder, so close she felt the heat singe her hair. She spread her arms wide, placing her body between the frightened hatchling and the security forces that surrounded them on all sides. Her heart thundered in her chest, but she kept her voice steady and calm. "Stop! Everyone just stop!" Elena shouted, her words cutting through the chaos like a lighthouse beam through fog. "You're terrifying it. Can't you see it's just scared?" Behind her, Ember released a high-pitched chirp that sounded more like a frightened bird than a legendary predator. The hatchling pressed against her back, its scales radiating heat through her lab coat. Elena could feel the creature trembling, its small body coiled tight with fear and confusion. She slowly turned her head, making no sudden movements that might startle the dragon further. "It's okay, little one," she whispered softly. "Nobody's going to hurt you. I promise." Ember's crimson eyes locked onto hers, and Elena felt something shift in the air between them. The dragon's pupils dilated, the inner fire dimming from blazing fury to flickering curiosity. Its forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air around this strange human who had chosen to protect rather than attack. For several heartbeats, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if Elena would become another cautionary tale about approaching wild creatures. Then Ember did something that made even the hardened Draconian warriors gasp in astonishment. The hatchling lowered its head and gently pressed its snout against Elena's outstretched palm. The touch was warm, almost hot but not burning. Through that contact, Elena felt a rush of emotions that weren't her own: fear, loneliness, confusion, and beneath it all a desperate need for connection and safety. General Rovik stepped forward slowly, his massive form moving with surprising grace. His scarred face showed an expression Elena couldn't quite read, something between shock and what might have been hope. When he spoke, his voice carried a reverence that transformed the chaotic scene into something sacred. "Impossible," Rovik breathed, dropping to one knee despite his rank and station. "The bonding, it is chosen. In 3,000 years of Draconian history, no fire dragon has ever bonded with anyone outside our species. Yet here, in this moment, Ember has selected a human as its sole companion." Elena barely heard his words. She was too focused on the connection forming between herself and the hatchling. It felt like invisible threads were weaving themselves through her consciousness, creating a bridge between two vastly different minds. She could sense Ember's thoughts, not as words but as images and feelings. The dragon showed her memories of hatching beneath a red sun, of being chosen for this diplomatic mission, of the terrifying journey through space in cold metal rooms. "I see you," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. I understand now. You were just as scared as we were. Ember chirped again, but this time the sound carried notes of contentment. The hatchling climbed into Elena's lap, curling its tail around her wrist like a living bracelet. Its scales gradually cooled from blazing crimson to a softer rose gold, a color change that made the Draconian warriors murmur among themselves in their guttural language. Ambassador Chen approached cautiously, his diplomatic instincts warring with obvious concern. Dr. Frost, are you injured? Should we call medical? I'm fine, Elena replied, gently stroking Ember's head. The dragon's scales felt like warm silk beneath her fingers. Better than fine, actually. Ambassador, I think we just witnessed something extraordinary, a bridge between our species that nobody thought possible. Rovik rose to his feet, his expression complex. He studied Elena with those burning eyes, and she found herself unable to look away. There was something in his gaze that went beyond military assessment or diplomatic calculation. It was personal, intense, and it made her pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Dr. Elena Frost, Rovik said formally, though his voice carried undertones of warmth that hadn't been there before. You have done what I believed impossible. You have earned the trust of a sacred fire dragon through courage and compassion. By the ancient laws of my people, you are now bonded to Ember for life. This changes everything. Over the following weeks, Stellar Haven Station transformed into something unprecedented. A section of the facility was modified to accommodate both the Draconian delegation and Ember's unique needs. Elena found her life completely altered. She could no longer work normal hours or maintain her previous routines. The bond with Ember demanded attention and care, a constant awareness of the dragon's needs and emotions. But she also discovered joys she had never imagined. When Ember was happy, Elena felt warmth flooding through their connection like sunshine. When the hatchling learned something new, Elena experienced the same rush of accomplishment. They were becoming more than companions. They were becoming parts of a greater whole. Rovik became a constant presence in her life. As Ember's species guardian and an expert in dragon care, he took responsibility for teaching Elena everything she needed to know. Their lessons often stretched late into the station's night cycle, the two of them working together in Ember's habitat, while the dragon practiced gliding between carefully positioned platforms. You must understand, Rovik explained one evening, his deep voice echoing in the vast chamber. Fire dragons are not pets or tools. They are partners in every sense. Ember will grow to understand your thoughts before you speak them. Your emotions will become its emotions. When you are in danger, Ember will feel your fear and come to your aid, even if it means flying across star systems to reach you. Elena watched Ember execute a clumsy landing, the young dragon tumbling head over tail before righting itself with an indignant chirp. She couldn't help but laugh, and through their bond she felt Ember's embarrassed amusement at its own awkwardness. How long before Ember can actually fly properly? Elena asked, moving to check the dragon for injuries. There were none. The hatchling's scales were already harder than steel, capable of withstanding impacts that would shatter human bones. 6 months, perhaps 8, Rovik replied. He moved closer, ostensibly to demonstrate proper wing examination techniques, but Elena noticed how his hand lingered near hers. Fire dragons develop slower than other species, but they live for over 5 centuries. You and Ember have lifetimes to learn together. Their eyes met and Elena felt her breath catch. Over the past weeks, she had come to know Rovik as more than just a fearsome warrior. She had discovered his dry sense of humor, his deep love for his people, his surprising knowledge of xenobotany. She had seen him laugh at Ember's antics and had watched him show patience with human dignitaries who asked ignorant questions about Draconian culture. Rovik, she began, unsure of what she wanted to say. He raised one clawed hand, gently touching her cheek with a delicacy that belied his massive size. I know, he rumbled softly. I feel it too. This bond between us, it grows beyond duty or diplomatic necessity. Among my people, such connections are treasured but rare, especially between different species. Before Elena could respond, alarms shrieked through the station. The emergency lights bathed everything in red, and the station AI's voice crackled with urgency. All personnel to battle stations. Unknown vessels approaching. Multiple bogies on intercept course. This is not a drill. Rovik's demeanor shifted instantly from gentle companion to military commander. He activated his communication device, barking orders in Draconian to his warriors throughout the station. Elena scooped up Ember, feeling the hatchling's fear pulse through their bond as the little dragon sensed the sudden tension in the air. "What's happening?" Elena demanded, following Rovik as he strode toward the command center. "Someone does not want our alliance to succeed," Rovik replied grimly, "and they have come to ensure it fails, permanently." In the command center, view screens displayed a nightmare scenario. 6 warships bearing the insignia of the Kryllian Dominion had emerged from jump space, their weapons already charging. The Kryllians were an insectoid species known for their aggression and their hatred of both humans and Draconians. They had been the dominant military power in this sector before humanity's arrival, and they clearly viewed the potential human-Draconian alliance as an existential threat. "They're hailing us," reported Commander Harris, the station's military officer. His face was pale but determined. "Audio only." The voice that emerged from the speakers buzzed with mechanical distortion. "Stellar Haven Station, you harbor enemies of the Kryllian Dominion. Surrender the Draconian delegation and the Abomination Dragon, or we will destroy your facility and everyone aboard. You have 10 minutes to comply." Elena clutched Ember tighter, feeling the dragon's growing agitation. Through their bond, she sensed Ember's instinctive desire to fight, to protect its bonded companion from threats. But the hatchling was still so small, so vulnerable. Rovik's jaw clenched, his scales rippling with barely contained fury. They dare threaten a diplomatic mission under the banner of peace. "This is an act of war." Ambassador Chen turned to face them, his expression grave. "General, our defensive capabilities are limited. This is a research station, not a military installation. We have perhaps 3 fighters and minimal shields. Against 6 Kryllian warships, we cannot possibly survive." The command center descended into controlled chaos as officers scrambled to coordinate what little defense Stellar Haven Station could muster. Elena watched the tactical display with growing dread as the Kryllian ships moved into attack formation, their weapons glowing with building energy. She felt Ember squirming in her arms, the young dragon's distress flooding through their bond like ice water. "We need to evacuate non-essential personnel," Commander Harris stated, his fingers flying across his console. "Get civilians to the escape pods. We might be able to buy enough time for them to reach minimum safe distance before the station is destroyed." "No." The word came from Elena's mouth before her mind fully processed the thought. Everyone turned to stare at her. This young scientist who had somehow become central to an interstellar incident. She straightened her spine, meeting their gazes with determination she didn't entirely feel. "There has to be another way. We can't let fear and hatred win. Isn't that why we're here? To prove that different species can work together?" Rovik moved to her side, his presence both comforting and electric. "Elena speaks wisdom, but wisdom alone cannot stop plasma cannons. My warship is 3 days away at maximum speed. We have no reinforcements, no miracle weapons. Sometimes courage is not enough against superior firepower." Through the view screen, Elena could see the Kryllian vessels spreading out, surrounding the station like predators circling wounded prey. The insectoid species had evolved on a world of constant warfare, where only the most aggressive survived. Their ships reflected that philosophy, all sharp angles and brutal efficiency, designed solely for destruction. Ember chirped urgently, pushing against Elena's chest with tiny claws. Through their bond, images flooded her mind. Not words or coherent thoughts, but feelings and impressions. The dragon showed her fire and flight, courage and connection. The bond between rider and mount that had sustained Draconian civilization for millennia. "Rovik," Elena said slowly, an impossible idea forming in her mind. "Fire dragons can survive in space, correct? You said they can fly between ships during battle." The general's eyes narrowed. "Adult fire dragons, yes. They generate internal heat sufficient to sustain themselves in vacuum, and their scales can withstand micrometeorite impacts and radiation. But Ember is barely 2 months old. Its abilities are undeveloped, its fire weak." "What are you thinking?" Elena's hands trembled as she stroked Ember's head, feeling the warmth of the dragon's scales against her palms. "The Kryllians don't know that. They've heard legends of fire dragons but never faced one in combat. What if we could use that fear? What if we could convince them they're not attacking a defenseless research station, but a Draconian military position?" Ambassador Chen stepped closer, his diplomatic mind already racing ahead. "A bluff? Convince them that destroying the station would trigger immediate Draconian retaliation? It might work if we can sell it convincingly enough. More than a bluff, Rovik interjected, his scarred face showing growing respect for Elena's cunning. A demonstration. If Ember can perform even basic maneuvers outside the station, if the Krillians see a fire dragon defending this position, they might believe our forces are closer than they appear. The Dominion is aggressive but not suicidal. They will not risk open war with the Draconian Empire unless certain of victory. Commander Harris pulled up technical specifications on his console. The station's hangar bay can be depressurized in 90 seconds. We could launch Dr. Frost and the Dragon through the main doors. But the environmental suits we have aren't designed for extended spacewalks, and certainly not for riding alien creatures through vacuum. I'll use Draconian equipment, Elena said, her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. If Rovik can show me how to connect with Ember properly, guide the Dragon through basic flight patterns, we can create the illusion of a trained war mount. Even if it's just for a few minutes. The Krillian countdown continued, their mechanical voice marking time until destruction. 7 minutes remained. Elena felt Ember's excitement building through their bond, the young dragon's instincts responding to the challenge even if it didn't fully understand the danger. Rovik placed his massive hand on Elena's shoulder, his touch gentle despite his strength. You would risk your life on an untrained hatchling? Elena, if Ember panics in the void, if the cold affects it more than expected, you could both die. The bond you share will make the dragon feel your fear, which could cause it to lose control. She turned to face him fully, seeing past the warrior's mask to the person beneath. Over their weeks together, she had come to care for this alien general in ways that defied logic and cultural boundaries. She saw in his burning eyes the same emotions she felt, fear and hope, and something deeper that neither of them had dared to name. Then I'll have to be brave enough for both of us, Elena replied softly. Rovik, your people trusted humanity enough to offer us Ember. Now I need to trust that bond enough to do what seems impossible. Isn't that what this alliance is supposed to be about? Taking leaps of faith across the darkness? For a moment, the command center faded away, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of shared understanding. Rovik leaned down, pressing his forehead against hers in a gesture of profound intimacy among his people. Then I will be there with you. My suit has external communicators. I will guide you through every moment, every maneuver. You will not face the void alone. The next 5 minutes passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Elena struggled into a draconian flight suit, the alien technology adjusting itself to her smaller human frame. The suit was designed for warriors who rode fire dragons into battle, covered in heat-resistant scales and equipped with magnetic grips that would help her maintain her seat on Ember's back. In the hangar bay, Ember paced excitedly, the dragon's scales brightening to crimson as it sensed the coming adventure. The hatchling had grown noticeably over the past weeks, now the size of a large dog but still small compared to the massive war dragons of Draconian legend. Its wings spread wide, membranes glowing translucent in the harsh hangar lights. Rovik checked Elena's suit seals 3 times, his movements precise but tinged with something that looked like fear. Remember, Ember will feel everything you feel. Stay calm, trust the bond, and the dragon will respond. Fire dragons have instincts older than recorded history. Even untrained, Ember knows how to fly. 2 minutes until Krillian weapons reach full charge. Commander Harris's voice crackled through the communication system. Dr. Frost, if you're going to do this, it needs to be now. Elena climbed onto Ember's back, settling into the natural hollow between the dragon's wings. The moment she made contact, their bond exploded into full clarity. She could feel Ember's 4 hearts beating in rapid rhythm, could sense the fire building in the dragon's chest, could touch the ancient instincts that whispered of flight and flame and fearless courage. The hangar bay doors began to open, revealing the star-filled void beyond. Cold air rushed out as pressure equalized, and Elena felt her suit activate, creating a protective cocoon of warmth and oxygen. Ember crouched low, muscles coiling like springs, every sense focused on the opening before them. Elena. Rovik's voice filled her helmet, warm and close despite the vacuum of space approaching. You are the bravest person I have ever known, human or draconian. When this is over, when you return safely, I have something important to tell you, something my heart has known for weeks but my words have not been ready to express. She smiled inside her helmet, feeling tears prick her eyes. Then I'd better come back so I can hear it. Ready, Ember? Let's show them what a real dragon looks like. The dragon leaped forward, wings spreading wide as they shot through the hangar doors into the infinite darkness of space. The transition was jarring, from gravity to weightlessness in a heartbeat, but Ember adapted instantly. The dragon's wings beat against vacuum, not for propulsion but for balance and control. Internal fires ignited, propelling them forward with bursts of superheated plasma that left glowing trails against the black. Through the bond, Elena felt Ember's pure joy. This was what the dragon had been born for, flying among stars, dancing through the void where only the bravest creatures dared to venture. The hatchling executed a barrel roll, testing its abilities, finding the rhythm of spaceflight that was coded into its DNA. The Krillian ships hung in formation ahead, their weapons ports glowing with deadly intent. Elena could see them clearly now, massive vessels bristling with enough firepower to reduce Stellar Haven Station to atoms. Through her helmet display, she watched their targeting systems lock onto her and Ember, tracking their flight path with mechanical precision. "Now," Rovik commanded through the communication link, "show them the power of fire." Elena didn't speak. She didn't need to. Through their bond, she shared her intention with Ember, and the dragon understood instantly. The hatchling's throat began to glow, building from rose gold to blazing crimson to white-hot fury. Then Ember opened its mouth and released a stream of plasma fire that lit up the darkness like a newborn star. The flames shot forward for nearly 100 meters, far stronger than anyone had expected from such a young dragon. The display was magnificent, terrifying, primal. It spoke of power barely leashed, of destruction held in check only by choice. And most importantly, it sent a clear message to the Krillian commanders watching from their tactical stations. This station was defended by a fire dragon and its rider. Attack here and face the wrath of the Draconian Empire. For 10 heartbeats that felt like hours, nothing happened. Elena and Ember hung in space. The dragon's wings spread wide, flames still flickering from its jaws. She could feel the cold of vacuum trying to seep through her suit, could sense Ember's energy reserves depleting rapidly. They couldn't maintain this display much longer. Then, one by one, the Krillian vessels began to power down their weapons. Their formation broke apart, ships turning away from Stellar Haven Station and back toward open space. Through the communication channels, Elena heard their transmission, buzzing with barely contained fury and something that might have been respect. The Dominion does not engage Draconian war parties without full fleet support. This sector is yours for now, but this is not finished. As the Krillian ships vanished into jump space, Elena felt Ember's exhaustion wash through their bond. The young dragon had pushed itself to the absolute limit, performing feats that should have been impossible for a hatchling. She guided them back toward the hangar bay, feeling Rovik's voice in her helmet warm with pride and relief. "You did it, Elena. You both did it. Come home now. Come back to me." They landed hard, Ember's legs buckling as the last of the dragon's strength gave out. Elena tumbled from the hatchling's back, her suit's impact systems absorbing most of the shock. Then strong arms caught her, and she looked up to see Rovik's scarred face, his eyes burning with emotions that transcended language barriers. "I thought I might lose you," he said softly, holding her close as if she might vanish like smoke. "In that moment, watching you fly into danger, I realized how much you have come to mean to me. You are no longer just the human who bonded with Ember. You are the other half of my soul, the one I did not know I was searching for until you stood between a frightened dragon and certain destruction." Elena reached up, touching his face with trembling hands. "I felt the same thing out there, surrounded by stars and danger. That coming back to you mattered more than anything else. Is this possible? Can it work between us?" Around them, the hangar bay erupted in cheers as station personnel celebrated their survival. Ember curled up at their feet, the exhausted dragon already falling into healing sleep. But Elena and Rovik were lost in their own world, two souls from different species who had found something precious in the darkness between stars. "My people have a saying," Rovik murmured, his forehead pressed against hers again in that gesture of profound intimacy. "The hottest flames forge the strongest bonds." Perhaps that applies to more than just dragon riders and their mounts. Perhaps it speaks to hearts that find each other across impossible distances. Ambassador Chen approached, his diplomatic smile now genuine and warm. "Dr. Frost, General Rovik, I believe we have just witnessed the true beginning of the human-Draconian alliance. Not through treaties or trade agreements, but through courage, trust, and connections that transcend the boundaries we place around ourselves. The weeks that followed transformed Stellar Haven Station into a symbol of hope. News of Elena's bond with Ember and her daring defense of the station spread across both human and Draconian space. Other species began to arrive, drawn by stories of this impossible friendship. This alliance sealed not through warfare but through one woman's courage and one dragon's trust. Ember grew rapidly, fed by Elena's love and Rovik's expert care. The dragon developed a unique coloring, scales that shifted between human rose gold and Draconian crimson, a living symbol of two worlds joined. And as Ember grew, so too did the bond between Elena and Rovik, two leaders from different worlds who discovered that love required no translation, needed no treaty to make it real. On the day that the official alliance was signed between the Human Federation and the Draconian Empire, Elena stood beside Rovik on the station's observation deck. Ember, now the size of a horse, perched nearby, the dragon's eyes reflecting the stars beyond the glass. Below them in the diplomatic hall, representatives from a dozen species celebrated the peace that had seemed impossible just months before. "Do you ever regret it?" Rovik asked quietly, his hand finding hers.
"Taking that leap of faith when every instinct must have screamed to run?"
Elena smiled, feeling Ember's contentment through their bond, sensing the depth of love radiating from the warrior beside her. "Not for a single moment. Sometimes the scariest step we can take is towards something beautiful. Sometimes the greatest courage is opening your heart when everything tells you to guard it. We proved that, didn't we? That love and trust can bridge any distance, any difference." Rovik pulled her close, his embrace warm and strong. "We proved more than that, my heart. We proved that the future belongs not to those who cling to old fears, but to those brave enough to write new stories. Stories of fire and starlight, of dragons and dreamers, of souls that recognize each other across the infinite darkness." And in that moment, with Ember's wings spread wide against the backdrop of 1,000 stars, Elena knew that this was just the beginning of an alliance that would reshape their corner of the galaxy, the beginning of a love that would be remembered in songs and stories for generations to come, and the beginning of a new understanding of what was possible when courage met compassion in the endless void between worlds. The dragon chirped softly, a sound of pure contentment, and Elena felt her heart overflow with joy. She had come to Stellar Haven Station as a scientist seeking knowledge. She was leaving as something far more important, a bridge between worlds, a partner to both dragon and warrior, and living proof that the greatest adventures begin the moment we choose to trust instead of fear, to love instead of hate, to embrace the unknown instead of hiding from it. The stars shone bright beyond the window, each one a promise of new worlds to explore, new friends to make, new bonds to forge. And Elena knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with Ember soaring beside her and Rovik standing strong at her side. Together they would write their story across the cosmos, a tale of fire and starlight that would inspire generations yet unborn. This was not an ending. It was a beginning, and the best stories always started with someone brave enough to take the first step into the unknown.